Hi, you're watching Comic Talk. I'm Josh, and this is Drew. This is our pull list episode for July 22nd. We're going to start off today talking about Starlord and Kitty Pryde number 1. This is written by Humphreys with art by Fermancia and coloring by Coln. So let's talk about this comic. What's the story here?
Well, our protagonist, Starlord, finds himself in Battleworld along with all the other Marvel characters kind of doing that right now. Nobody there has any idea what Disney is or what a Disney song is, so he becomes this sort of musical genius, so to speak, by exposing the world to all of these Disney songs under the name Stevie Rogers.
Stevie Rogers.
Which is ridiculous. And he does meet Kitty Pryde. She doesn't remember who he is, but she is intrigued by him.
So what'd you think?
Art-wise, I think the classic Marvel / maybe delving a little bit into Disney was completely appropriate for this. A lot of times it kind of frustrates me, and I feel like they could have gone a different direction with it, and the standard Marvel is like the default and doesn't really serve anything, but I think that sort of style really serves this comic well.
I thought so too. I would say that it was maybe a little more playful than sort of the house style. The grins were all a little bit bigger.
Yeah, again, you get a little of that Disney flair in there, which...
Yeah, it had like a little bit of that classic like Little Mermaid, Aladdin era look to it, which I agree was completely appropriate for this. So how about the comic in general? What are your thoughts? Did you like it?
Yeah, it was so good in like the worst ways possible. Like everything that made me laugh was just like the face palm. Every time. The theme of this comic was facepalm for me.
Right.
If you had to pick a theme for this one, what would it be?
Probably the same.
Probably
just
facepalm.
Just goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're really just playing around with these characters, with Drax with the giant Elvis hair, and just in general, it was just goofy and fun.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
And one of the things that I really liked about this is in some of the Battleworld stuff, I feel a little bit lost as a non-Marvel aficionado. I didn't really feel that way with this. I mean, there are some cameos here or there, but if you're at least somewhat familiar with the Marvel Universe, it's nothing big.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what makes this work is that Starlord in here is one of the few characters in this Battleworld that is from outside of the Battleworld. So reading this comic from his point of view, it's okay to be lost just the way he's sort of lost. Like, he's outside of his element, and I think that makes it easier to slide into it.
Because he has the same questions that you do as a reader.
Right. So it's a good way to pull you into it. Also, I feel like this is a pretty good setup for what could be a pretty fun caper. In a very sort of classic Indiana Jones sort of way, where he wants to woo the girl who doesn't really want to have anything to do with him
yet.
And of course she will. Come on. But it could be a pretty fun like romantic caper that they go on here.
I would say maybe leaning towards the romantic comedy kind of thing, but the other way around, because he's kind of the clueless idiot and she's the one that kind of has her stuff together, versus Jennifer Aniston being Jennifer Aniston and
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller, as like the super anal retentive guy.
Right. Yeah. It's sort of a role reversal.
Right. Yeah. Which makes me happy.
Yeah, it could be a lot of fun. I think it'll be a good read. So let's move on to our next comic that we read this week, Wolf Number 1. This is an Image comic. This is by Ailes Cott, with art by Taylor, color by Luridge, and lettering by Cowles. So kind of, what's the rundown on this one?
This one is kind of ambiguous, so I'm going to read directly from the back of the comic. Antoine Wolf, a hard-boiled paranormal detective with a death wish, has to cope with sudden responsibility for an orphaned teenage girl who might be the key to the impending apocalypse, California style. Also features a bag full of cash, a serial killer on the loose, and many secrets.
Now, I would say the strange thing about that synopsis that they've included is that the comic itself almost feels like the lead up to that.
Yeah, I had no idea that a lot of that stuff that I just read was really the case, what was happening.
Right, all of these characters and things are happening, but it's not laid out there for you to pick up right away. It's not until sort of the very end of it.
Yeah, which this is that's another thing. How many pages is this? 1 million.
I'm guessing it's probably 44. It's probably a double issue. That's what it feels like. It read like a couple issues worth of material.
It's pretty thick. But still, yeah, at the end of it, you read the back cover and then it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what all those people were doing.
Right, and that's not to say that it was bad by any means.
No.
I mean, it was purposefully ambiguous, I think, on a lot of stuff, and very selective on the way that it builds things and the order in which it builds things, which I think could turn out to be pretty great. I mean, obviously, starting out with the first one, it's hard to say how they'll bring it all together. Yeah,
so far I'm kind of liking the vibe with it. It's sort of like a hellscape LA with vampires and werewolves and this
Still kind of
Cthulhu guy
yeah.
and just all sorts of different paranormal people just sort of intermingled into LA as if they belong there. And it's interesting because as the comic progresses, it delves deeper and deeper into that. Like at first it just seems like this weird situation with relatively normal people.
Yeah, like he's the only weird one.
Right. And then you just keep meeting more and more strange characters as you continue to read, and it just sort of gets stranger and stranger.
I really like a lot of the characters too. I think character development was probably the strong point of this issue.
Yeah, the characters are really interesting. That's what has me interested to continue in this book. I think the way that it was written, where it starts off feeling very, very real and not particularly supernatural, really pulls you into that world and makes you feel like it's a normal place. And then as they start adding these other strange characters in, and these characters also act as if the world is just normal, that's the way it's supposed to be, it helps keep it reined in and feeling natural. Whereas if it started off right off the bat with tentacle face guy and vampires, like you'd immediately have that fantastical vibe.
Yeah, it would change the tone completely.
Yeah, it would be a lot harder to buy it right up front. So it's just the way it's written here, the care that was taken to sort of pull you in that way, I think is very clever and probably speaks a lot to how this will play out.
So what did you think of the artwork?
It's pretty good. I think the coloring's pretty great.
Yeah, if there is a standard image, I would say it's kind of standard image.
Yeah, it is pretty standard image. It's got a lot of those, not a whole lot of different colors on the page. We've seen it with a couple other books that we've reviewed, including Airboy.
Right. Ironically, it kind of reminds me of the new run of Catwoman too, with the coloring and the art the way it is. It's very new minimalism, I would say. Not very cartoony at all.
Right, and there's a whole lot of panels where you have they've rendered the characters, but there's nothing happening behind them. It's just a blank image. It's just two people standing almost in front of like what we have here. Almost, in my opinion, at the exact opposite end of the spectrum in regards to both the art and just the storytelling style here. We have our next book, which is Old Man Logan. This is number 3. This is Bendis, Sorrentino, and Maiolo. So what's going on in this one?
In this one, Logan continues his journey through various cameos.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm really liking this book. The further I get into it, every issue, it sort of pulls me in a little bit more.
It's winning me over. I mean, the first issue I thought was boring. But yeah, the last one that we did I thought was better, and I thought that this one was even better than that. And my complaint about missing the narration boxes, I'm not going to say I don't still miss them, because I do. But I don't feel like there's as much of a void where they need to be. Whereas in the first issue, I thought, they're just wasting so much by not including, this literary device or whatever you want to call it. I don't really feel that to be the case with this issue.
The thing that I really like about this is, again, the same thing that I've said on the previous issues we've talked about, where I feel like this is just quintessential Wolverine Logan storytelling. He just sort of tears through each place you put him. He gets run through the ringer, and he's still just as gruff and pissed off and disinterested in anybody else's rules or opinions as he was going in.
It's like he goes in and he gets his ass kicked, and he wakes up and he meets some people, and then something goes wrong and he gets his ass kicked again, and then he wakes up again.
Yeah, he just gets whooped over and over again. He tears some people up in the process. But he just, he takes a licking and keeps on ticking, you know?
He's reckless.
Yeah,
for sure.
He just goes after whoever. He doesn't care. Thor, I don't care.
Right.
Iron Man, I don't care. Like, he just goes after them. He talks shit on them, tells them they're idiots, and moves on. So I really like that feeling. And I think the fact that he's sort of just wantonly getting thrown from, like, district of the battle world to the next is a great through thread for all of these.
Yeah, on that note, it seems a little Marvel heavy to me sometimes. Like, I know that I'm missing so many references in here, and there's really nothing that I can do about it.
Right.
I would like to see them rein that back a little bit. But on that note, I know there's probably, some hardcore Marvel fans out there who are just all about the way that they're doing it.
The continuity and the callbacks. And overall, man, the art in this
continues to impress me.
Is just so perfect for a Wolverine comic. He's just visceral and dirty and messy and
almost like animalistic in a way.
Yeah, just focuses on all of the visceral elements that he's experiencing. We get a lot of close up of his claws ripping through flesh.
Yeah. It's so sensory for only being visual, by nature.
This next one here, let's go over to the DC side of things. And let's talk about something that's probably, again, opposite end of the spectrum. Very clean, very fun, lighthearted title for the most part. We're talking about Prez number 2 over here. This has a whole cast of creators here. We have Russell's the writer on this. We have Caldwell doing the pencils. And then inking is Morales and Parsons together. And Lawson doing the color.
As our protagonist mourns the death of her father, politicians find themselves in an electoral gridlock as they're holding out for the best lobbying offers.
This is heavy satire now.
It's so good.
They're really going for it with the goofball satire and parody now.
I mean, I'll say just straight out of the gate, this is my pick of the week. It was so good.
It was pretty funny. I liked this one. It's starting to win me over. So what is your favorite part here of this?
It makes me laugh in anticipation of an inescapably awful future.
Yeah.
Like, I know all of the things, like the big I don't want to say plot points, but the big laughs and stuff that are in the issue, they're all things that are totally going to happen. Like, there will be ads in hospitals that you can pay money to get rid of.
Right.
It's just so, it's hard because it's in the future, so you can't say, oh, that's so spot on, but it feels that way. It feels exactly where things are going. And it just makes me laugh, which is good because they're all horrible things.
Yeah. I liked a lot of the goofy elements in this. I really like the politicians talking on the phone in bed with their heart-shaped pillows.
Yeah.
Like they're talking about boys at school.
Right, yeah. You get that 12-year-old girl on the phone kind of immediately.
Yeah.
It's this old guy in a suit, bald.
Yeah, he really is going after the politicians. This whole creative team is. They're not pulling any punches.
Not at all. Not at all.
It's very funny.
So what do you feel like for you is the biggest step up? Because you weren't the biggest fan of issue number 1.
Well, the first issue, it was hard for me to gauge how much of it was supposed to be intellectually funny and how much of it was supposed to be gag humor. Just get a good joke in and hop out. And this one, I feel like the tone is a little more clear. It's a little more obvious that it really is going way over the top with it. It's supposed to be kind of lowbrow with its humor. It's tackling some interesting subjects. I mean, we make fun of religion, politics, a lot of different things in here, but in a really goofy, sort of lighthearted, fun way that is more clearly just for fun.
Yeah, and it's interesting in that it's all lowbrow humor, but it's all on highbrow topics, I guess.
Right.
Like, we get to laugh about healthcare, in a very juvenile sort of way.
Artistically, what'd you think?
There's a lot of great visual humor in here. It's not anything super exotic by any means. I think it served the comic well, though.
Yeah, I'll agree. The art's pretty standard, but a lot of really good visual gags. We had a return of the taco drone, which was great. Dropping the tacos for the politicians, getting them the sour cream in his mouth from the little thing that comes down and sprays it in. So there was a lot of good visual humor in here. The End of Care Bear was pretty great.
Yeah,
There are
yeah.
a lot of really goofy, sort of over-the-top visual jokes that I liked a lot.
And little things too, like the cat flu. What the hell is that?
Yeah, what's cat flu? Weirdworld, number 2, Jason Aaron, Del Mundo, and Alfonso.
Is it Aaron?
It's Aaron.
Oh, okay.
So Weirdworld, tell me.
While in the Water Apes dungeon, Aircon makes a friend and an ally, and they attempt to escape.
Aplantis.
Atlantis. Sorry.
Yeah, get it right, buddy. Yeah, so this is pretty singular in its vision on what's happening in this issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a violent escape from prison.
With some inner monologue.
A little bit of inner monologue, mostly just talking about how he wants to get home and such. We kind of just get a continuation of that from the last issue, but man, the focus on this is just on sort of action and how Archon is a badass.
Yeah.
Really.
This is maybe one of the first issues that I've read where I really feel like the story would be background to the art if it wasn't so good.
Yeah.
No. Definitely, as I was reading it, the art was the first thing that I was looking at. I was scanning all of the panels. Not even scanning, I was giving them a good once over, twice over, 3 times over before I even started to read. But yeah, Jason Aaron didn't let down. Even with the bar set that high of what's the most interesting thing on the page, he delivered.
Yeah, I feel like this comic, the story in it is almost completely told through the art. And really, the writing is giving us backstory and setting information.
Insight here and
insight into the characters, but really the story itself is all in the art. From front to back, we see you could take out everything Jason Aaron did in this, and you would still have the full story. You'd still know exactly what was going on in this comic without being confused at all, I think.
Which is an amazing feat of artistic direction.
Yeah, it's beautifully rendered. Yeah, and not only that, but damn, the imagery in here is just awesome. And
the coloring, I mean, I can't say enough about the artwork. Everything is spot on.
It's just so cool. There's stuff in here that I would blow up and put on my wall.
You have to touch on the writing, so what did you think?
I thought it's cool. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I totally dig the style, the feel. It's just straight up like old school fantasy, barbarian story.
Which, yeah, in the last issue, I really liked that it seemed quite a bit deeper than your standard run-of-the-mill barbarian story.
Well, sure. Yeah, it's definitely cream of the crop of that sort of thing.
Yeah, this one, dialogue and monologue-wise, I don't think hit the same bar. But I'm not upset about it, really.
No, I don't think that was really supposed to be the focus here. This really was, I think, a vehicle for the art, to be honest. And I feel like the writing here was just again to get us in there, to move us from one place to the next, and give us something to read while we're checking it out.
And that's not to say that the more heavy style of narration won't come back. I think it will.
Oh, I think so as well.
Especially with Jason Aaron on it. If he has something to say, he will, and it will be great.
Right.
But I didn't mind him sort of stepping back in this one a little bit and letting the visual team, so to speak, sort of take the reins.
I would like to add that I read today that this series will continue past Secret Wars.
Good.
It is getting continued.
Good.
So we're going to see more Archon than just another...
Aircon.
Akron. So we're going to see more of this beyond just, the next month or two. So I'm pretty excited about that, because this is a title right now I want to read for as long as they'll keep making it.
Right. Yeah, after reading the first one, it was like, man, I hate that this is a Secret Wars title, because it's limited, And I think this is one of the more creative things that Marvel's done in recent memory.
Yeah.
So it's good they're holding on to it. And I was also sort of afraid, because the cover of the first one is so awful, and the name is just, so strange, that maybe it wouldn't be one that people picked up, because we'll see that sometimes, like the Superior Foes of Spider-Man book, everybody that read it absolutely loved it, but it got canceled super early on because nobody was reading
Nobody was grabbing it, because it just, what is this? Yeah.
Exactly.
They definitely did a better job. They had Del Mundo do the cover of this one. Again, it's much cooler. It looks
It's better.
a lot more like what's inside here. So that was a good call, in not trying to do a different type of cover and just saying this is what it looks like.
The cover doesn't have that 90s Sega Genesis game kind of
Yeah.
feel to it.
Yeah, Altered Beast.
Right.
Yeah. So all in all, this was probably my pick of the week. Very good stuff.
Very good. Very good.
All right, well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for us on this episode of Pull List. You should definitely come back this weekend and check out our bargain bin episode for Dennis O'Neill's The Question. Awesome series. I think we're both
Super
really
good.
excited to talk about that. Has some cool cameos, some really interesting writing, a lot of great verbiage.
A lot of great verbiage. A lot.
So, and very, very old school art. I'm very excited to talk about this one. So check back with us this weekend for that. That'll be out here in just a couple days. And next week we'll have another episode of the Pull List where we continue to talk about everything that we pull each week. And make sure to like and subscribe and comment and tell us things. And
Facebook and Twitter.
go to our Facebook and our Twitter page. Bye.